all about the small things. I was a Gunn graduate and wanted to, after graduating, actually leave the bubble of Palo Alto. I looked back and realized that it was really important for me to explore what was outside of Palo Alto, and went to college in Washington, D.C. And after graduating from college, went into Peace Corps in West Africa. What I learned when I was in Peace Corps has stuck with me to this day as I serve as mayor this year. And what I wanted to share with you was actually the stories and the lessons that I learned when I actually got meningitis when I was in Peace Corps. So what happened during my second year in Peace Corps? There was one day where my neck started hurting and my head started hurting. And I didn't know what was going on. I know that Peace Corps had provided all the protections for us possible. They'd given us all these vaccinations to protect us against all these different things that might happen to us in a new environment, with new health issues. But I still didn't know what was going on. So I went to bed just to nap in the middle of the day. And one thing that I was so fortunate of over the years, that was my second year, I developed an incredible friendship with this gentleman named Mr. Zongo, who was not afraid to interact with someone who, in that context in West Africa, I was affectionately known as Jackie Chan for both years. And he came and he visited and he said, Mr. Yeh, and he knocked on my door, and I didn't respond. I was unresponsive at that point. And he was worried. He was my friend and he was worried. So he came into my house and he just was asking how I was doing. And I still didn't respond, so he went over to the health center, which is where I worked for the 2 years. And he checked in with the head nurse and said, "You need to come, the American in our village is not doing so well." And what happened over the next 10 hours, which is how long it took to get me to the capital, it was a country called Burkina Faso. It was where they had a clinic that they actually were able to treat American citizens. I was strapped to a friend to a motorcycle. We then traversed 15 miles over a really an unpaved clay road to get me to the regional capital. There was one doctor there for 10,000 people. And the doctor there made the decision, said, "You know what, we have to get you up to the capital. We have to get you out of here." And I was not responsive. I didn't know all that was going on at that point. So they sent me in an ambulance and had called the embassy to send an ambulance down to come get me. And they said, "We're going to meet you halfway and we're going to transfer you so we can get you up to the clinic up at the US Embassy, and we're going to get him treatment." At that point, they didn't know what was going on with my health. I was fortunate that there was another Peace Corps volunteer in the second largest city, which is about a third of the way up to the capital. She joined in. She was the first person that I had met when I had joined the Peace Corps. We met in Philly, we ran into each other, and we just knew that we were going to hit it off, and we ended up being in the same region. And I didn't know that kind of friendship and that kind of serendipity that had happened 2 years before was going to have such a positive and incredible impact on me that day 2 years later. So when we got up to the embassy, at that point, they shuttled me into the clinic. They ran a whole bunch of tests on me just to figure out, did I have malaria? Did I have meningitis? Did I have something where that I have aggressive indigestion? They just had no idea what was going on with my system at that point. And it was tough. It was something where, being in a different cultural context, I wished myself out of Palo Alto. But I wished myself into a situation where I didn't know now what was going on. And by that time I was awake, and the nurse was helping me. She was telling me what was going on, the tests that they were running, and all I could turn to was someone who, 2 years ago I hadn't known, but over the years had cultivated a friendship with, and that was the other volunteer. It was scary. It was something where being away from family, being isolated in a new cultural context, I didn't know who to turn to. Later on, they told me that I had meningitis, and it terrified me. I started reading, and I read about the different figures that were associated with it. I saw that death was actually something that was not uncommon, and that for those who survived, you could have complications. Imagine all the senses that you have: sight, taste, hearing, all of that. It could have been impacted. And so in some somewhat morbid fashion, I tested all my senses one by one to just see what was going on with my body. And one of the things that I learned was I was fortunate that I had all these different abilities still in a moment that I thought that I might have lost something. And in that moment too, it was one of the small things that I will remember forever through the rest of my life. The ambassador to Burkina Faso walked in, and it wasn't the fact that he visited. That wasn't the small thing. It's what he brought with him that stuck with me. He brought a bag of Oreos. I didn't know what to think about that. You know, he was something where I was in a foreign culture, a foreign environment. I was terrified. My parents weren't with me. My brother wasn't with me. And here was, the kindest soul who came in with something that was familiar, that he didn't know that I loved it, but I did love it. And I couldn't have, expressed a stronger desire for something that just felt familiar. So in that instant too, I learned what a simple act of kindness could do for someone, and that someone happened to be me in that moment of need. And then the impact that you can all do as an individual when you find someone who's in a moment of need, to be able to take that simple act of kindness. And for me, now when I see Oreos in Safeway or whatever store, I have a moment, I have a warm fuzzy. It's a warm fuzzy moment followed up by a reminder that here's a simple act of kindness. And so I come back now within my role in Palo Alto with the incredible belief that to be here today with you and to share this story is really one that even though I grew up here in Palo Alto and went to school here at Gunn, I had to leave and go very far away to relearn some really simple lessons. And they're lessons that I want you to take with you as you think through all that you do with your own lives, and the challenge that comes with sometimes what's most simple is going to be what's most impactful. And one of the examples that I wanted to share too here in California and being back in Palo Alto after all those years of being a nomad, there's so much that you can just do within any community. Whatever community you find yourself in, Palo Alto will always be a home base. It will always be something that you have roots here for. But when you go to other communities, when you go away to college, when you go away to new adventures and wherever that might take you, just remember that you have a home, you have a place that has cultivated some incredible values, and that those values are best demonstrated through some of the simplest things in life. I feel so fortunate actually to have gone through that terror when I was there. From the kindest knock-knock from my friend in village, Mr. Zongo, to my friend in village who just happened to be in the second largest city and was able to then join the ambulance, to then Oreos. Who would have known? But it's that kind of lesson that really sticks with me to this day and drives what I love to do within public service. So thank you all for being here today, and I hope that I get to hear all of your adventures as you embark on all the journeys in this world. Congratulations.